day from the Russian Mission Control Center in the town of Kolyov outside Moscow. 5 days ago, a multinational trio of crew members departed the International Space Station for home. At this hour, a new trio of multinational crew members closing in on the station for a docking less than an hour from now to begin more than a half year on the international outpost. Thanks for joining us today for our docking and hatch opening coverage for the arrival of the rest of the Expedition 56 crew. You're looking at a live view from the Soyuz MS-09 as it is about 18 miles away from the International Space Station, docking scheduled about 52 minutes from now. The spacecraft is just a few miles out from its final destination and an automated docking to the Rassvet module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. On board this Soyuz vehicle, monitoring the Soyuz systems, are its commander, Russian cosmonaut Sergei Prokopyev, a first-time flyer, flanked on his left in the Soyuz crew cabin or descent module by board engineer Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency, now in his second flight into space, and on his right by first-time flyer NASA astronaut Aunon-Chancellor. They have been aboard the Soyuz for the past 48 hours since their launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan for this two-day journey to their home in space. This was the view back on Wednesday at 5:12 p.m. Kazakhstan time as the Soyuz booster lifted off from Site 1, Gagarin's launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome, to begin an 8-minute, 45-second journey to its preliminary orbit to begin the chase to the International Space Station. That ascent was flawless. The Soyuz separated from the upper stage of the Soyuz booster, and a series of pre-planned, automated, programmed rendezvous burns have been taking place since then to fine-tune the Soyuz's path to the International Space Station. Just a few minutes ago, the Corps' automated docking system was activated, its antennas up and running, and a self-test was performed to ensure that the Corps is operating normally. That is the primary rendezvous system that brings the Soyuz in for its automated docking that is scheduled again in less than an hour from now. The Soyuz external camera has been activated along with its TV transmitter, and we'll be seeing views not only from the Soyuz as it approaches the docking port at the Rassvet module, but reciprocal views from the International Space Station's truss cameras showing the Soyuz closing in for its final approach and contact and aboard the International Space Station as a three-person crew for the past 5 days has been the new commander of the station, NASA astronaut Drew Feustel, along with his crewmates, Oleg Artemyev, the flight engineer from Roscosmos, and NASA's Ricky Arnold. Next week, Feustel and Arnold will go back outside the International Space Station's Quest airlock for a planned 6.5-hour spacewalk, their third excursion outside of the space station during the past few months to continue upgrades and maintenance work on the station's system. They are awaiting the arrival of their three new crewmates and colleagues, Prokopyev, Gerst, and Aunon-Chancellor, who will be opening the hatch to the Soyuz vehicle as Feustel, Artemyev, and Arnold work the opening of the hatches on their side of the docking interface at the Rassvet module on the International Space Station side of that docking port. The 6 crew members will greet one another for the first time. They'll move into the Zvezda service module for a welcoming ceremony and congratulatory calls that will take place here later on from friends, family, and VIPs who are gathered here to watch today's arrival. At the Johnson Space Center in Houston, on console at this hour, is the Orbit 1 team of flight controllers working an extended shift at this hour in support of station activities. At the bottom of your screen is Flight Director Scott Stover, joined on console today by a pair of spacecraft communicators. In the middle is Jay Marshke. He's been talking to Feustel, Artemyev, and Arnold on board the station. And to his right is European Space Agency astronaut Andreas Mogensen, who flew aboard the International Space Station on a short-duration mission in 2015. He has joined Marshke today since he is a Soyuz systems specialist.
We confirm the test completion. So there is the search, circular search, GESO 1, 2, 3, 4. We have acquisition the range rate is -20, and the S parameter is nominal. Copy.
From time to time, throughout the final phase of this rendezvous, you'll be hearing the translated conversations between flight controllers here in Korolyov and Sergei Prokopyev, the Soyuz commander, who is flying under the call sign of Altai, which is a mountain range in Central and Eastern Asia where a number of nations' borders come together. That call sign specifically selected by Prokopyev, and this is first flight into space. The call you just heard indicates that the Corps' automated rendezvous system is providing updated range and rate of closure information to the Soyuz computers. At the moment, the Soyuz is closing in on the station at a rate of about 20 meters per second. At the time of contact and capture, which is expected at 8:07 a.m. Central Time, again within the hour, the Soyuz's rate of closure will have slowed to a very snail-like pace of about 1/10 of a meter per second, and at the time of contact and capture, the forward docking probe on the orbital module, the top or bulbous section of the three-section Soyuz spacecraft, will lock on to the hooks in the docking interface of the Rassvet module. The hooks will begin to close to form a tight seal around the docking interface once the docking probe has begun to retract to basically pull the station in to a hard mate between the station side of the docking interface and the Soyuz side of the docking interface.
Discharge, and at the 19th minute it deactivated. The second camera is still operating. Copy that the second camera is on.
The International Space Station with the Soyuz in pursuit for its docking a short time from now, flying at an altitude of 255 statute miles, moving from southwest to northeast, just off the coast of Brazil, in fact, just to the east of Rio de Janeiro, in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. The station systems are in excellent shape as the new commander, Drew Feustel, of NASA, who took over command of the station last Friday from Anton Shkaplerov, who landed in his Soyuz spacecraft along with NASA's Scott Tingle and Japanese astronaut Norishige Kanai last Sunday in south-central Kazakhstan. Feustel, Artemyev and Ricky Arnold, again, have been a three-person crew for the past few days, a very short so-called indirect handover, which will come to a close with the arrival of the three new crewmates, Prokopyev, Gerst, and Aunon-Chancellor, a short time from now.
So the range is 9.700, and the range rate is -14. The filter is operating, and the station is in the center of the screen and periscope. Copy.
Station Moscow, space to ground 1 for Oleg. Oleg, you may start recording now. Copy, in work.
The Soyuz MS-09 is now 9 kilometers away from the International Space Station, closing at a rate of 13 meters per second. Prokopyev has a very clear view, he says, of the station in his periscope, also in the field of view, and two-way communications have been established between Prokopyev and Oleg Artemyev aboard the International Space Station, who is monitoring the approach of the Soyuz from the Zvezda service module. Unlike an unmanned progress vehicle, a cargo craft, when it is launched to the space station, the crew on board the station does not employ the TORU, or telerobotically operated backup system, for a manual guide-in or approach of the spacecraft in the unlikely event the core system would experience a malfunction. For a manned Soyuz vehicle, that would be the responsibility of Prokopyev to take over the control of the manual flying of a Soyuz for a docking. But so far so good, as the core's system is operating as advertised, and the Soyuz continues its inexorable path for a link up to the International Space Station, again at 8:07 a.m. Central Time. Once we get a bit closer to the station, the Soyuz will enter what is known as a fly-around of the station at a narrow 56.23-degree angle, and will wind up directly aligned about 400 feet away from the Rassvet module for what is expected to be a very brief period of station keeping, allowing flight controllers here in Korolyov to assess the precise alignment of the forward docking probe on the Soyuz with the docking port itself. Once everybody is comfortable with all of that, station keeping will come to an end. The Soyuz will begin its final approach that will culminate in contact and capture to the Rassvet module's docking system.
Guys, do it whatever is more convenient for you, because we are receiving a good image on the ground.
Ярко.
This is too bright.
Еще.
A little bit more.
Убираю.
No.
Очень ярко. Очень.
Too bright, so we removed AGC mode.
Дальность 7300.
Если одно нажатие сделать...
So the range is 7 kilometers, 300 meters, and the range rate is minus 10. So we don't need AGC, actually.
Minutes, so it's basically correct.
10 minutes remaining till burn number 3. Copy.
The burns that you're hearing relayed from the Russian flight controllers here in Korolyov up to Sergei Prokopyev are so-called impulse burns, very small, fine-tuning adjustment burns from the Soyuz thrusters to precisely align its path for the point at which the spacecraft would begin its automated fly-around of the International Space Station to align itself with the Rassvet module. These burns range from about 1 meter per second to about 5 meters per second. They not only align the Soyuz and perform what is essentially a mid-course correction, but they also will adjust the rate of closure on the station. Currently, the Soyuz 6.5 kilometers away from its destination, closing at a rate of 9.5 meters per second.
The range is 6 kilometers, 500 meters. The range rate is minus 7. Filter is operating.
Принято. Тоже наблюдать.
Copy. We are saying this also on the ground. The range is 6 kilometers. The range rate is minus 9. We have acquisition of the signal and the filter is operating.
following the docking of the Soyuz vehicle, which is coming up about 37 minutes from now, the crews on either side of the docking interface will conduct a series of leak checks, pressure checks, to make sure that we have a tight seal between the Soyuz and the Rosviet module's docking interface. That will be followed by the pressurization of the small vestibule or passageway between the Soyuz and Rosviet. The hatches are scheduled to swing open between the two vehicles in a window that begins at approximately 10:05 a.m. Central Time. We'll be back on the air for that at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. Following the hatch opening and the congratulatory calls from friends, families, and VIPs in attendance here in the Russian Mission Control Center, the 6 crew members will conduct a safety briefing that will be led by the new station commander, NASA's Drew Feustel. The Soyuz crew, the arriving crew under the command of Sergei Prokopyev, will place the Soyuz on ISS power, basically conserving the Soyuz batteries for the remainder of its 6.5-month stay on orbit. Usually, the arriving crew is given a couple of days off to catch their breath and relax after a trip from the launch pad in Baikonur to the station. That will not be the case this weekend. A full weekend of activities is on tap as the newly arrived crew members, Alexander Gerst of the European Space Agency and Serena Aunon-Chancellor from NASA, work with Feustel and Arnold on spacewalk preparations for their spacewalk that is scheduled next Thursday out of the Quest airlock. A spacewalk scheduled to begin shortly after 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, to install stanchions and enhanced high-definition cameras on the outside of the Harmony module of the International Space Station near the International Docking Adapter port, to which commercial crew vehicles will link up in the years ahead. They will also swap out a camera system on the starboard truss of the station and do other maintenance work in what amounts to the 211th spacewalk in space station history for assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. It'll be the 9th spacewalk for Drew Feustel, the 5th in Ricky Arnold's career. And should the spacewalk go 5 hours and 23 minutes or longer, Feustel next Thursday will surpass Peggy Whitson on the all-time spacewalking list into 3rd place for aggregate time for spacewalks by any human being, right behind Mike Lopez Alegria of NASA and the all-time leader Anatoly Solovyev, Russian cosmonaut.
4 kilometers, the range rate is minus 8.6. The filter is operating and the station is in the center of the crosshair.
Принято.
Copy. The range is 3.5 kilometers, the closing rate minus 8.5 meters per second. The filter is operating. The station is in the center of the screen.
Принято. Ожидаем встречу коррекцию.
Copy. We are standing by for burn number 3. The range is 3 kilometers, minus 8.5 is the range rate. Filter is operating. We have signal acquisition. Please confirm.
is Mission Control in Korolyov outside of Moscow. The Soyuz MS-09 is now less than 3 kilometers away from the International Space Station, and this view now picks up the Soyuz spacecraft on truss cameras from the International Space Station, closing at a rate of about 8.5 meters per second. Just over a half an hour until docking. Everything continuing to proceed on track, no issues whatsoever with the approach so far, as Sergei Prokopyev, Alexander Gerst, and Serena Aunon-Chancellor now have a clear view of their future home in space for the next 6.5 months.
-8 is the range rate. The ISS is moving to the left and downwards. No GSO, but we have TV mode on. Copy.
Ожидаем появления
We're
ГСО.
standing by for the in-attitude flag or GSO.
Есть появление ГСО.
We have GSO, we can confirm it's a joint
Включение двигателя.
GSO, and we're standing by for the
Есть включение двигателя.
firing of the thruster 153706.
Идет.
Everything is nominal. The burn is going on.
3.8.
3.8.
Так, набрали
The Delta V
5.26.
5.26.
A good view of the Soyuz MS-09 as it flies 255 miles over Algeria, moving from southwest to northeast. This pass will carry both the Soyuz and the International Space Station over northern Tunisia, just across the Mediterranean, almost directly over the boot of Italy, and over the heart of Serbia.
5.26.
5.26 is the reading.
Есть появление станции на ВКУ.
We can observe the station on the VKU, on the monitor.
Есть ГСО
We
вообще.
have joined GSO
ГСО
in
1, 2, 3, 4.
attitude 1, 2, 3, and 4 GSO
Есть
also
захват.
is confirmed. We have
Работает.
acquisition
Дальность
filter
1.7, скорость минус
is
4.2.
operating. The range is 1.7 and the range rate is minus 4.2
Работает.
meters per second.
Она
Copy. Filter is
сделаем
operating.
на одно положение больше.
Давай на одном.
Okay, so
Да, хорошо видно.
Замечательно.
all right, so we will add one position here. Yes, it's good now. Thank you.
Great view of the Soyuz MS-09 with its 3 crew members on board in the descent module, the center section of the 3-section Soyuz spacecraft. Just a couple of small mid-course correction burns left to go before they begin their fly around of the International Space Station in about 7 minutes.
Come again. Come again. Soyuz. So we are entering the
16:03 и выход из тени 16:39.
okay, so the sunrise will be at 16:33, guys.
16.03 до
So 16:03 through
До 16:39.
16:39. Yes, that's eclipse time. Copy.
1300 дальность.
The range is
3.7 скорость.
kilometer and 300 meters and
Фильтр
minus
работает, захват есть.
4.07. Closing range filter is operating and we have signal acquisition. We confirm.
Все, ровно в 6 скажем, да? Снова вести. Ну, в 6 да. Не, почему? Не пока дойдут до того слова. Будет метров 500. Да.
Дальность 1100, минус 4 скорость.
So the range is 1 kilometer and 100 meters. The range rate is -4. Filter is operating.
Ну да.
Чувствуется работа в ДПО.
So we can feel DPO operation.
Надо будет выдать нам B13.
A reminder to send command 30.
Где-то когда метров 600 будет.
Please prepare everything
500 будет выдать.
for the distance.
And again, you're seeing views of both the space station from the Soyuz and vice versa. The Soyuz now less than 1 kilometer away from docking to the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station, currently closing at a rate of 2.5 meters per second. Good view of the station as the two vehicles travel in concert with one another 255 miles above the Earth. And now the Soyuz spacecraft that has performed flawlessly so far since its launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan back on Wednesday.
And the zone is called the inhibit of the digital loop analysis. Yes, that's correct, Alex. At the range 500 meters, you should send this command. Now it is 800 meters.
Минус 2,8.
Minus 2.8 is the closing rate. And we can see the station on VKU monitor, and it moves to and fro.
Дальность 700, минус 2.
So the range is 700 meters, and we confirm signal acquisition. Filter is operating.
Дальность 650.
The range is 650 meters, minus 2.3 is the closing range. Filter is operating.
Подходит дальность 600.
We're approaching.
At a range of 640 meters away, again, a good view of the Soyuz vehicle as it flies 255 miles above the Earth, everything in great shape. Currently flying in tandem with the International Space Station over Romania, closing at a rate of 1.5 meters per second. We soon will begin to see the fly-around of the Soyuz to precisely align its forward docking probe with the Rosviet module's docking port. This will be a 56-degree fly-around for the Soyuz spacecraft with docking scheduled just over 23 minutes from now.
Идут колебания.
So we can see gyrations or movements of the image of ISS on VKU monitor. Copy.
Дальность 500.
Range.
Полтора скорость.
The rate is minus 1.5. Range inaudible. Range is 500. Range 350.
This is Mission Control Korolyov, 470 meters separating the Soyuz and its destination at the International Space Station. Flight controllers are reporting that the Russian segment is in the correct orientation for the docking a few minutes from now. of the Soyuz MS-09 spacecraft to the Rassvet module. As the Soyuz makes its final few feet just prior to contact and capture, the station will be put into what's known as free drift, meaning that all of the thrusters and propulsion systems on the station itself will be temporarily disabled to avoid any inadvertent jet thruster firings that could perturbate the relative motion of the two vehicles against one another at the time of contact. It will take just a couple of minutes for the relative motion of the two vehicles to dampen out at the docking interface before the docking probe on the Soyuz can begin to retract to basically pull the station in for a hard mate.
Copy, fly around confirmed.
And the fly around has now begun, right on schedule. Again, this will take just about 2 or 3 minutes. At the end of the fly-around, the start of the final approach will be determined by the Russian flight controllers here in Korolyov, depending on whether they feel any period of station keeping is required to assess the relative alignment between the forward end of the Soyuz and the Rassvet module. So we'll be standing by to see that. It is not uncommon for a Soyuz docking to occur ahead of schedule. That could be the case again today. We'll see.
Fly around is in progress. 340 is the range.
Переориентация на другую ОКР.
And we're switching to a different OKR.
Колебания.
There are still fluctuations.
Надо. Скорость рубки.
Rate is range is 320.
Скорость минус 0,5.
Range is minus 0.5.
Again, a good view from the Soyuz cameras looking at the International Space Station. As you see the Corps' automated rendezvous system locking on to its target. And again, this view now of the Soyuz from truss cameras on the International Space Station. An outstanding view as the fly-around of the station is in progress. The station and the Soyuz currently flying 255 statute miles over the border between Russia and northwest Kazakhstan.
Range is 280. Rate is minus 0.3. Filters are operated nominally. And
the Soyuz now about 1/3 of the way through its fly-around. Everything looking good according to the Russian flight controllers here in Korolyov.
And could you please check the parameters? The K15 parameter. It is not illuminated yet. And we're completing fly around. We're switching over, and I confirm S and C locked on target signal. Range is 260 meters. Just a visual estimation. 251 to 52. Rate is 0.3, and I confirm roll maneuver. I confirm K15. And I confirm.
The Soyuz spacecraft is now beginning a roll maneuver that will align its solar arrays in the correct orientation on a non-interference basis for its approach for a link up to the Rassvet module, which is just below the crosshairs in this view.
time is
Soyuz currently closing in,
50.
just about 200 meters away,
And I
completing the fly around. Again, this view now showing a great view, looking right down the barrel of the Rosviet module, and a view of the control panel inside the Soyuz spacecraft, where all the commands are being automatically issued by onboard computers.
Headlight is on. Is the headlight on?
Выдаем. Причал Инпу 1. Время выдачи. Инпу 1.
And we're sending the command from Input 1.
Движение.
And this is the command for final approach. We are ready
Причал.
to issue final approach command. It is in progress.
51:18.
The time is at 15:51. I confirm final approach command
Причаливание.
and final approach rate confirmed. Minus 0.50 is the rate, and it is increasing.
Идет причаливание.
Range is 205.
Скорость.
Minus 1 meter is the rate.
And the report from the visiting vehicle officer at Mission Control in Houston, confirmed by Russian flight controllers here, is that no station keeping was required, and final approach of the Soyuz for its docking to the Rosviet module is underway about 5 minutes ahead of schedule.
Range 160. Rate 0.8. Target is at the center of the screen. And all is operating nominally. Filter is operating nominally. Range 140, rate 0.8, filter is operating nominally, and target is at the center of the screen. (130) minus 0.8, filters are on. Copy.
Flying serenely over the border between Kazakhstan and Mongolia, the Soyuz MS-09, just minutes away from delivering Sergei Prokopyev, Serena Aunon-Chancellor, and Alexander Gerst to the International Space Station for a 6.5-month mission.
Range 100. Rate minus 0.53. Filter is operating nominally, and target is at the center of the screen. Range is 90. Filter is operating nominally, and rate is minus 0.5, and the target is offset by approximately half a square. Okay, copy.
At the bottom of your screen, you're looking at two fan-shaped solar arrays. Those are the ultra-flex solar arrays on the orbital Antares, the Cygnus cargo craft that arrived at the International Space Station a couple of weeks ago.
Copy.
Later in June, SpaceX will launch its next mission to the International Space Station, a delivery mission of its Dragon cargo craft that will park right alongside of Cygnus, marking the first time since 2016 that two U.S. commercial cargo vehicles will have been at the International Space Station simultaneously.
Target is at the center. And we are seeing the target. And the crosshairs are aligned. range is 60, minus 0.2 is the closing rate. Filters are operating nominally. Target is approximately half a square to the right and upwards.
High over Mongolia, the Soyuz MS-09, minutes away from its link up to the Rosviet module, now just 47 meters away, closing at a rate of just under 2 meters per second, everything continuing to go very smoothly.
Ready? Range 38. Target is moving down by approximately a square. Range minus 0.13. Filters are operating. Range 32 meters. Rate is minus 0.13. Filters are operating well. The target is offset by approximately half a square and upwards from the center.
Just 30 meters now separating the Soyuz and the International Space Station. The two craft about to fly into an orbital sunset, moving from northwest to southeast over far eastern Asia. This pass will take both the Soyuz and the station just south of Shanghai, China, into the Philippine Sea.
Range 23. And rate minus 0.13. Filters are operating nominally. The target is at the center of the screen. And the SSVP system is armed. Copy. Range 18. Rate minus 0.11. Target is aligned with the center.
And a good view of final thruster firings by the Soyuz as it aligns itself to the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing port of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Just a few meters now separating the Soyuz from its destination, closing at a rate of 1/10 of a meter per second.
Range 16, rate minus 0.13. Angular size of the target is approximately 1.5 squares. Rate minus 0.11. Copy. 0.11. The target is offset to the right by approximately 1 square. Range 10. Rate minus 0.1. Filters are operating. Copy. Target
with one of the solar arrays of the Cygnus spacecraft also in the field of view, multiple views of the Soyuz as it negotiates the final few meters. We are standing by for contact and capture of the International Space Station.
Crosshairs are aligned. Target is at the center. Range 5 meters. And please be ready for contact. Angular size is 3 squares. 3 meters is the range. Rate is nominal. We're standing by for contact. Target is at the center of the screen. I confirm contact.
Contact confirmed.
And I confirm.
And capture confirmed. At 8:01 a.m. Central Time, 9:01 a.m. Eastern Time, the Soyuz MS-09 delivering a multinational crew to the International Space Station for more than a half year in space, docking occurring over eastern China at an altitude of 255 statute miles.
Flow. Wow. 1. Yes.
And the docking probe on the Soyuz is now retracting as planned. This will literally pull the two docking interfaces flush against one another to form a hard mate, allowing hooks on the docking interface to close around one another. There's a good view. Soyuz is home after a flawless 2-day journey from the launch pad of the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
We're standing by for MV measurements. Alex, I will proceed with closeout ops, and you'll do the measurements.
Сергей, ты циклограмму, да, тогда ССВП смотришь, да?
Inaudible.
Once again, to recap, you're looking at the Soyuz MS-09, Sergei Prokopyev, Serena Aunon-Chancellor, and Alexander Gerst aboard in the descent module of the Soyuz, completing an uneventful and flawless 2-day ride following their launch on Wednesday from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, arriving at the station, docking occurring just a few minutes ahead of the original schedule, docking occurring at 8:01 a.m. Central.
Is 826.
9:01 a.m. Eastern Time over eastern China.
The measurement is 831. And the pressure in BO is 808. And 861 in BO. How? Copy. Yes, we copy all. And please perform the next measurement in 15 minutes. Copy. Headlight is off.
Сергей, касание было
Sergey.
Да. Еще раз.
Inaudible, come again, please.
Касание было почти над воздвиженкой.
The docking, the contact occurred over. Inaudible, I cannot hear you. Please come again.
Касание над воздвиженкой. Прямо над воздвиженкой. Отлично.
So with the docking having been completed, we're standing by for the completion of the closing of the hooks to form a hard mate between the Soyuz and the International Space Station's Rassvet module.
Display in pre-drift or indicate the mode should be illuminated there. Stand by.
Индикаторный режим горит.
Pre-drift is illuminated. Copy, illuminated.
Так, я перехожу на ССВП.
I will switch to SSVP, docking and internal transfer system.
Электроразъем состыкован.
Electrical connectors have been mated and LED is illuminated.
D17
D17
не горит.
is not illuminated.
Ожидаем крюки закрыты.
We're standing by for hooks closed indication.
Давление стабильно.
Pressure parameters are stable.
Сергей, ты на формате ССВП, да?
Sergey, just to confirm, you are on SSVP display, correct? Yes, I confirm. And I'm standing by for hooks closed or D15.
Нам надо еще
Okay, and
проконтролировать
we still need to monitor R13.
С-13 я доложил.
S13, I have already reported about this parameter. It is illuminating. Okay, I copy now.
Есть крюки закрыты,
Hooks
D15.
closed, confirmed. D15, confirmed, copy.
D13.
D13.
And this is Mission Control Korolyov. You just heard the confirmation from Russian flight controllers here at the Russian Mission Control Center that the hooks have now closed at the docking interface between the Soyuz and the Rassvet module. So we now have a hard mate between the two craft, setting the stage for at least one orbit's worth of leak checks at both sides of the docking interface. The Soyuz crew, Prokopyev, Aunon-Chancellor, and Gerst, will conduct leak checks on the Soyuz side, and Feustel, Artemiev, and Arnold will do the same on the station side of the docking interface. That will lead to the opening of the hatches shortly after 10 a.m. Central Time today. It was a flawless rendezvous. Everything, every burn, every pre-programmed maneuver went off without a hitch for the Soyuz MS-09 following its launch on Wednesday from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The terminal phase of the rendezvous was as perfect as you can imagine, with docking occurring again at 8:01 a.m. Central Time, 9:01 a.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz and the International Space Station flew over eastern China. So it won't be long now before the 6 crew members join one another on board. The leak checks to be conducted over the course of the next hour and a half or so. The Soyuz crew will also doff their Sokol suits, their launch and entry suits, deactivate camcorders, and deactivate the systems in the orbital module, which is the uppermost section of the Soyuz craft that will lead to the beginning of preparations for the opening of the hatches and a welcoming ceremony for the 6 crew members in the Zvezda service module not long from now. So that'll wrap up our coverage for this program, this broadcast of the docking of the newly arrived trio of crew members to the International Space Station. Sergei Prokopyev, Serena Aunon-Chancellor, and Alexander Gerst have arrived at the station and soon will be aboard. One programming note, we'll be back on the air in about an hour and 20 minutes from now at 9:30 a.m. Central Time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time for coverage of the hatch opening and welcoming ceremony that will renew the station to a 6-person crew. For now, we'll wrap up our coverage. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Mission Control Korolyov.